What's up guys, my name is Ace, and today I just wanted to have a conversation about the current state of Warzone. At least from my perspective, based on my experiences. Now, your experience and your perspective may differ, and that's great. But I basically just wanted to sit down and have a chat about how I'm feeling about Warzone now that it's been out for several months, and over the past few months, it actually has received many different updates and improvements. In this video, I also wanted to share some more feedback and just some suggestions and things that I would still like to see changed to improve the overall gameplay experience of Warzone, at least for me. So, hopping right into it, how do I feel about Warzone overall? Well, I'm still enjoying it a fair amount and still having a good time when I play it for the most part. And I really like a lot of the little additions and improvements that they've made to Warzone over the past few months. A lot of the little things that they've done may kind of fly under the radar as they happen, but they've really been adding up to improve the overall experience. Like just a few examples here, the first thing is now we have permanent solos, duos, trios, and quads, as well as a limited time mode and plunder. And that's awesome because when Warzone first launched, they really had things limited, so you were kind of just stuck with the very limited playlist selection that they had. And as of now, they've got a great playlist selection, and I think that's a huge improvement. Also, a bunch of the really small things like the play again button, so you don't have to back out to the menu and then search for a game again. You can simply hit play again and it'll load you into a new match. And also the little additions and changes they've made within the game itself, like new contracts for instance, or changing up the ground loot. I really like that they changed that stuff up to help keep things at least a little bit fresh. And currently, I'm actually really enjoying the set of ground loot that we have, mainly because I love the FAL, especially after they buffed it. It is ridiculously powerful, maybe a little too powerful. So yeah, when I look at Warzone overall, I still generally have quite positive thoughts toward it. However, I have been finding myself playing it less and less recently. And as of right now, I only really play Warzone 2 to 3 times a week, it seems, for a couple hours at a time. And it's often just when I'm live streaming, which, by the way, I will leave that link down below. I do stream on Twitch a few days a week at least. Or the other times I'll play it is if I really need a gameplay for YouTube, then I'll hop on and get my gameplay. Aside from that, I don't really grind this game. I'm not hopping on every day. I'm not really excited to play it all the time. And I'm not one of those people that's just playing it like 8 hours a day and just going hard with it. And I think this is down to several reasons. And this is where I wanted to get into my feedback and just share some of the reasons that I feel I've been losing interest in Warzone slowly over time. And the first issue is something that seems to be getting worse and worse at the moment. This is hackers. Now, dealing with hackers seems to be a constant battle, especially with a free-to-play game, because if you ban somebody, they can often just create a new account, and they're back in the action. And a little while back, Activision implemented a great system where people had to actually confirm and link a phone number to an account. I believe that was just for free-to-play, in order to create that account. And therefore, if an account got banned with that phone number, then they couldn't use that same phone number again to make a new account and bypass the system. And that worked great for a couple weeks. I remember it was like they flipped a switch and there were almost no hackers after that, whereas before that, I was running into hackers quite frequently. And that was awesome, and that lasted for a few weeks until, of course, the hackers seemed to have found a workaround for that. And now it's ramped back up again, and I'm finding myself running into hackers more and more, to the point where it's really starting to turn me away from the game again. Now, I'm not going to lie and exaggerate and say that I run into hackers every game or every second game, because that's not true. But it is getting to the point again where I seem to be running into a hacker about once per play session or once every 2 play sessions. And that's enough for me to really get frustrated and want to put the game down, because I could invest 15, 20 minutes into a great gameplay where I'm getting lots of kills, I'm setting myself up nicely for victory, and none of that will matter because somebody kills me with an aimbot and or wall hack. And I totally get it. It's a constant uphill battle back and forth between the hackers and the developers, where the developers will implement something to combat a hack, and that will alleviate the issue for a little while. But then, of course, inevitably, the hackers will find a workaround for that, and then it's once again in the devs' court to get that fixed. And it seems like currently the hackers are winning. So I hope what's going on right now is the devs have been collecting a lot of data and stuff and working on another method of countering the current set of hacks so that we can once again get some relief from this issue. But that's one of those issues that has really been kind of putting me off the game lately. The next one is something that I have beaten to death in the past, but it does appear something changed with this with Season 4. This is skill-based matchmaking. Now, I've already done a study on this early when Warzone first came out, and I've shown that your recent performance absolutely seems to be correlated with the skill level of the players that you're running into in the lobby, and therefore, the better you get, the harder your opponents are going to get. With Season 4, it feels like something tightened up here. It seems like they made an adjustment to the matchmaking algorithm, and overall, I've been feeling like they flipped a switch and suddenly matches are much more difficult to play in. And it was enough of a change that I was actually starting to warm up to the idea of doing another one of those big studies. However, Activision has apparently disabled in their API the ability to see the roster of the players that you were just in a match against in Warzone. So it looks like I can't even do that study to see if something has changed with the skill-based matchmaking. All I know is something really seems to have changed the moment that Season 4 update hit. And I really feel like I'm just bashing my head against a wall and I can't see any sort of improvement in this game, and it just feels like I can't catch a break. And I just find this to be so frustrating when there's no rank attached to this. If we had a ranked playlist, awesome. This would be great. At least I could see how I'm stacking up against similarly skilled players, and I can track improvement over time, and I can strive to get to that next level of skill-based matchmaking, even if I'm not consistently getting first place in my matches. Without this displayed skill rank, I've really just kind of lost interest in trying to improve or caring about how well I even play, because what's the point if I'm just playing against people that are a similar skill level to me? If I do improve, what happens? I just move up to the next skill bracket, and I'm back at square one again with nothing to show for it. So yeah, that's all I'm going to mention about this. I really hope that one day we could see a ranked playlist for Warzone. Either that, or they could significantly tune down the skill-based matchmaking, because I'm just really getting burnt out here. But moving on to the next thing, this is something that's specifically related to the gameplay itself. This is the inconsistent footstep audio. This is something that I've had a problem with since Warzone launched, and it doesn't seem like anything has changed. There are so many situations where somebody will just sprint right up on me and I don't hear them until the last second, or I don't hear them at all until I'm being shot by them, even though they're only just a few meters away from me. There's also been situations where people will run right into the building that I'm in, run up the stairs, and again, I don't hear a thing until they're actually shooting me. And I'm not saying this happens all the time, because sometimes I hear footsteps just fine and I can hear somebody approaching just like you would expect to be hearing somebody approaching. But that's my issue, is it seems to be very inconsistent. And I don't know if this is just there's a bug with some surfaces where footsteps just aren't registering properly, or what exactly is going on here. And yes, to clarify, I do check the kill cams to make sure they didn't have dead silence in these situations. But yeah, I just find this incredibly frustrating, especially since I'm a console player and we are limited in our field of view. It's almost like we're looking down a tunnel. And when you have that limited field of view, you kind of have to rely on your hearing to some extent at least, especially in a big open world environment like Warzone. And I just feel like I can't trust my ears at all while playing Warzone, and I think that's a problem. Additionally, when enemies climb up ladders, it seems like there's no audio at all. Like, you can't hear them doing that at all, even though when you climb up a ladder, it definitely plays fairly loud audio cues for yourself, apparently just not for other people. So what I'd like to see done with footstep audio is, first off, if they could fix any sort of inconsistencies or bugs, that would be great. But also, I would like to see footstep audio boosted just for the immediate vicinity of players. I don't want to see footsteps be super loud out to a really long distance, because that would strongly discourage movement and encourage camping, because everybody would just sit and wait till they hear footsteps, and then they would know exactly where the enemy player is, and then they can just ambush them. And that makes for very boring gameplay. So I don't want them to necessarily boost the range at which you can hear those footsteps. I just wish it could be more consistent and possibly a little louder for really close range situations. Like if an enemy is in the same building as you, for instance, and they're not trying to quiet their footsteps by crouch walking or aim down sight walking, for instance, there should be no question at all. You should be able to hear their footsteps as long as there isn't a bunch of gunfire and stuff going off. As it is right now, I'm running into far too many situations where I get shot by somebody that runs right up within like 3 to 5 meters of me, and I had no indication whatsoever that he was coming. So that's got to be my biggest issue with the gameplay itself in Warzone, and it's still something that leads to so many frustrating deaths. And yeah, I would love to see an improvement overall to footstep audio. Now, this does bring us to the next thing that I'd like to see changed, and this is another thing that it's been happening since launch, and it has been talked about a decent amount. This is the fact that when you put an armor plate into your vest, all it does is it will fill up the current damaged armor plate. Even if that armor plate seems to have only taken like a couple damage points, that's all you get out of the next plate that you put in. So what I would like to see is an adjustment. So if you put an armor plate in, it adds a full 50 armor to your character. And not only does this make sense in game, it would also make sense in real life. Why would you replace a partially broken armor when you have the opportunity to first replace a completely broken armor? So this is one of those things that I feel like would be a pretty easy fix. It shouldn't be that difficult to fix this. And I think it's something that most people would agree with. I can't see anybody being against a system like this. It would benefit everybody equally. So yeah, I really hope this is something we could see fixed in the not too distant future. And this leaves us with the last fix that I would like to see, and this is again something I have mentioned in the past, but we still haven't seen any improvement to this. This is the gas mask animation, and the fact that you have no real control over that gas mask animation. So if you have a gas mask in your inventory, the moment you touch the edge of the gas, that animation will start, which means you can't aim down sight with your weapon, and your character has to put their gas mask on. And then likewise, when you exit the gas, or if your gas mask breaks, right at that moment, it triggers the animation to take the gas mask off, regardless of what you're trying to do aside from that. And I find this to be very frustrating. It's just one of those things where it takes away that feeling of control over your character, and it doesn't allow you to make the choice to prioritize threats. Now, I have seen some people counter this with saying, well, it's realistic. There should be an animation. It shouldn't just like pop off or pop on automatically without interrupting anything. And I have a few counterpoints to that. First up, this is an arcade-style shooter. Not everything has to be realistic. There are many other elements of the game that aren't realistic for the sake of gameplay balance, and that's great. And I would argue that that's one of the things that would overall improve gameplay balance if there was no animation and it just popped on and off by itself. However, even if you're strongly opposed to that and you still insist that there must be an animation for realism purposes, I could accept that as long as I had some sort of control over that gas mask animation. It's also unrealistic for somebody that's in the middle of a gunfight, they're being shot as they're shooting the enemy, to suddenly stop in the middle of that gunfight to put their gas mask on. In real life, they would be prioritizing the threat, and at that point, the bullets that are coming in your direction are a much bigger threat than the gas. The same thing goes as you're exiting the gas. You would keep that gas mask on, even if it's broken, you would keep that gas mask on until your gunfight is finished, and then you would remove it when safe. And the way it is right now feels completely backwards because that gas mask is priority number one, no matter what the situation is. So this is another one of those areas where even though it doesn't happen all the time, I would like to see an improvement here somehow. Whether that be eliminating the animation completely so it just automatically pops on and off as needed, or if they just had some method of allowing us to control when we activate that animation. I would love to see an improvement in this area because that's just another one of those little things that I find to be quite frustrating and jarring in this game. But with that, that's pretty much it for my list of the main things that I would like to see fixed or changed in Warzone. And it's not even a really big list by any means, it's just a few things, and I think that's a really good sign actually. As much as I get frustrated by these things, it could be so much worse, and they've actually done a good job addressing many of the other complaints I've had since Warzone launched. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with the overall state of the gameplay of Warzone, but the biggest issues that have really been pushing me away from this game are the hackers that seem to be getting out of control, as well as the strict skill-based matchmaking with no visible ranked system attached to it. If these areas don't get addressed, I don't see myself sticking with Warzone too much longer. Which really sucks because I love the gameplay itself, but I have a hard time staying motivated to play when it feels like there are so many elements that are completely out of my hands. And with that, I'd like to know in the comment section below, what do you guys think about Warzone in its current state, especially compared to Warzone when it first launched? Do you think it has improved a lot over time? Are there other improvements that you'd like to see being made? Just let me know those thoughts in the comment section down below. If you enjoyed the video, a like rating is always appreciated, and don't forget to subscribe for more if you haven't already. I'll talk to you guys next time.